Good morning, my dear friends. Today, something truly special for those who love ecology. Today I'm throwing away plastic, today I'm throwing away hot glue, and together we'll make a decoration. A wreath, a truly winter wreath, made completely without any artificial elements, only from nature, straight from the garden, straight from the field, using only jute twine. I invite you to make such a wreath with me. I've already prepared the table. I have pruning shears, I have scissors, and I'm about to head to the garden to pick things for this wreath. And I encourage you to subscribe to this channel. And let me know if you make such decorations straight from the garden, straight from the meadow, all natural without using any artificial elements. I'm waiting for your comments. I ran around the garden a bit and picked some natural elements, as I mentioned. It will be a wreath, already a bit wintry, although still a bit autumn, but a wreath to which I can later add, for example, some Christmas decorations. What did I pick here? I picked some regular branches from Buddleja and corkscrew willow. They will be my base. Birch twigs could also serve as a base, from which we can weave the frame of our entire wreath. I also have Hedera helix, which is beautifully blooming ivy with berries. And I have some green elements like Canadian hemlock and California fir. I also have a nice looking garden hydrangea. I picked the flower heads. And I have some great nine bark with those fruit clusters, although they shed a lot. What I care about more is the color, that slightly burgundy red shade, and the branching shape of the nine bark twigs. And I'll mix all of this together and make a spatial irregular wreath using only this jute string, which is also a natural element. So where should I start? I'll start by constructing the wreath. I'll make some kind of base, but I won't do it in the classic way, where I first make the wreath, weave it, and then add things to it. I'd like these buddleia twigs to stick out here and there, so they can also serve as a decorative element. So right from the start, I'll tie them together with the other elements. The most important part is tying the string at the beginning, the so-called starter string. We tie it around a thicker base, preferably with a knot, and then we just keep going, tying in a simple way. 1, 2, 3. Whatever we don't need later, we can cut off. I've prepared some green ivy, as you can see. It will look like this for a long time. On top of that, I'm going to hang this wreath outside so the cold will make the leaves look nice for a long time. We tie it, actually, we just attach it and that's it. We're building a base and we'll connect it later. The wreath doesn't have to be a very classic regular wreath, so I can tie it in different places. Of course, the biggest problem is always with the string. Oh, let it stick out a little on one side and on the other side. Later, we'll add a base, a bit of hydrangea at the bottom of the wreath, meaning deeper inside. Later, we'll nicely connect it all together and it'll be a great, great wreath. You should remember to add those elements that are our structural elements, like these twigs, for example, but I don't want to add them in such a way that they're always smoothed down. The color and a winter character here will be given by this California fir, which is a beautiful plant. Just look. And also the Canadian hemlock. If the wreath gets too thick, of course you can absolutely trim the ends, and then the base gets a bit smaller. It's not so thick. In the meantime, my dears, I'll bring in some Dusty Miller here because it gives a slightly wintry character, and I'm not worried that it will wilt because it lasts a long time in these conditions when it's cold, and it nicely complements the whole arrangement. It's important, you see, to keep tying it together, to keep adding these elements, and then this kind of garland, because it's really almost a garland. I'll tie it all together, adding at the very end those branched elements in the form of sticking out twigs. I'll tie it all together and I'll have a finished wreath. 1, 2, 3, and it's done. How long does it take me? About 15-20 minutes, including picking everything in the garden. So that's pretty good. I asked you if you make things like this. Let me know. I'll be working with it, making a wreath like this with some extras for Christmas. You'll definitely see it on my Instagram because I also show various interesting things there. I encourage you to go on Instagram and check it out. Just type Hubert Lamansky on Instagram and I'll definitely show up there. And I'm adding what's left here on the table. And in a moment I'll be tying the whole wreath together and I'll show you what the final result looks like. Of course, you can keep adding elements here endlessly. You can make it longer or shorter and then nicely connect it all together. You can use different elements, ones that last longer or ones that last less. You can also add large elements like hydrangeas, which dry very well. Especially those hydrangeas that are not garden ones but panicle hydrangeas look really good. I decided to use those and I hope it will look great. My dear friends, the wreath, or actually my garland tied into a wreath, the wreath, it should be irregular, asymmetrical. It can hang on a door, it can hang on a fence, it can be placed on a table. It's irregular. Of course, we can trim it a bit if, for example, these shoots sticking out here are too big. We can freely trim it because it's so messy and irregular. It doesn't matter if we cut something out, for example. If it was tied well, then between the string and the branches, we can add an element tightly, for example, if we're missing something somewhere, because with such irregular shapes, sometimes the form gets lost and we can easily add it here. We don't have to tighten it unless it's really very loose. Then we take a piece of string, make a loop and tighten it to our base. I can easily add some extra elements between these tied branches and basically my wreath will be ready. Let me know if you like these kinds of wreaths and of course if you make such wreaths yourself. And in a moment I'm going to hang it up. I think I'll hang it on my terrace on my wooden partition because it's going to look great. My dear friends, the wreath is hung. Of course, you can still add more elements here. Once it's hanging in its final place, you can insert additional pieces between the strings, which can pull the shape in one direction or another. As I mentioned, this is a very quick way to decorate, and you can actually add various elements to it. You can even add Christmas decorations later on. What I will do in the end, I'll show you on Instagram. I hope you like it. Let me know in the comments. If so, give it a thumbs up and I invite you to watch the next episodes.